Welcome to the Where Humanity Meets Technology podcast, where we talk to business leaders about cybersecurity, data management, and advanced digital solutions to provide strategies to increase the profitability of your company. Now, here's your host, Maurice Hamilton, the CEO of Infinovate Consultancy Services.
Well, hello, everybody. I'm not going to say good morning, good afternoon, because we don't know what time you're going to listen to this podcast. But hello, everyone. My name is Maurice Hamilton, and welcome to our podcast, where our company is called Infinovate. And we like to call the podcast where humanity meets technology. So we like to look at that and say, or you could reverse that and say where technology meets humanity. Either way, it works, depending on how you look at it. But we like to interview different business leaders out there, talk to different type of business organizations, and actually see how they are actually using technology for the betterment of humanity. How are they actually using the technology to improve the efficiencies and the operations and to make life a lot easier for different people. So today I have a guest, and he's actually been in the industry like me for some time, and he actually has a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge in that particular area. We have Geoff Hughes here, and he's with a company called Digital.ai, and we're going to spend some time today and actually talk about how they are actually using technology for the betterment of humanity. And so, Geoff, welcome to the program. We're really happy to have you.
Maurice, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. So Geoff, I'll begin the podcast, and I like to begin in this way because I think everybody has a story, and I think that if we talk to, no matter who they are, everybody has some kind of beginning. So Geoff, how did you actually get into technology like you are today? How did it all begin for you? Where did it start?
You know, some of us have more than a few stories, Maurice, so I'll try and keep it simple. But I was very fortunate to attend Duke University and be part of their undergraduate engineering program. And one of the things that interested me at the time was I had a few friends that were working on the student IT help desk. And so, you know, part-time gig, but, you know, somebody's printer is jammed or they couldn't log into the university Unix systems, doing password resets, fairly simple things. But one of the things that I learned while I was at Duke, I was there to study biomedical engineering. And as I got deeper into that coursework, it dawned on me that you're not going to go into biomedical engineering without a PhD. And 4 years of Duke engineering was a tall ask for me. It was a challenging 4 years of education. And I would say, you know, there's some interesting parallels to now. You know, we're seeing a lot of things on LinkedIn about job offers being rescinded or the way the economy is changing and recession. And when I graduated, the marketable skills that I had were those skills that I had learned at Duke as part of the IT student help desk. And so I turned that into a full-time job offer at a local to North Carolina company called CompuChem Environmental Corporation as a Unix systems administrator. So, you know, sometimes you learn things directly in education, and sometimes you sort of have life skills and things that translate to different opportunities.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. And I looked at your portfolio, your LinkedIn, I should say, and I saw you worked for Cisco, you worked for Wells Fargo, and CA Technologies. There are a lot of really big corporate. There's some other. I mean, matter of fact, every company you work for are pretty much blue chip type companies, you know. And but not only looking at the companies that you work for, but you actually did cloud management was it at Cisco that you did the cloud management?
Yes. It was really, so I'll try again to do the quick version. I was very fortunate when I was doing some early in career consulting work to have a manager at Glaxo, which is now GlaxoSmithKline. At the time, it was Glaxo Wellcome. Joined Cisco and you know, recruited me to come join him at Cisco. I was a little bit younger, a little bit more naive at the time, and I was like, "Hey, this is really cool. This is a technology company. You know, I'm all in. This is great." And everybody around me was like, wow, Geoff, you've hit the big time. This is fantastic. They're like, what are you going to do 5 years from now when you retire and you're on your own private island? And I'm like, I had no idea what anybody was talking about at the time. Cisco was the stock market darling. I would say that I am the first quote unquote introductory class at Cisco that did not see a stock split in their first year of employment. So, for my fellows that are still at Cisco, I'm sorry about that. It really wasn't me. It was the market. But I had a great career at Cisco. Was there for almost 12 years. I started the first global sysadmin team while I was at Cisco. So if you think about industry trends, there was a point in time in which everybody hated carrying the pager or the cell phone because it meant that the phone would go off at 3 in the morning and you get up and grab a cup of coffee and try and figure out what was broken and how you would fix it. And so while it might not have been unique to Cisco, we were able to shift into, okay, I don't have to get up at 3 in the morning now because somebody else can get up and it can be the middle of their workday. And so that follow the sun model was something that, again, I'll claim imitation, not innovation in that particular space, but it worked and it was a good business model. Wells Fargo, I ran their enterprise storage division in IT for a few years, and it was really kind of an interesting opportunity. I was not looking to leave Cisco, and the joke I always tell my friends is, in true Godfather fashion, Wells Fargo made me an offer I couldn't refuse. So, one of the things that you figure out throughout your career, I mentioned it, with Duke and education is sometimes there are lessons that you go and you seek out, and sometimes there are lessons that find you. And working in the financial industry is very, very different than anywhere else. And when you think about it, you're managing other people's money. There's a reason why there are compliance frameworks and different views of security, and why hard drives never left our data center. They went into a garbage masher that would turn hard drives into confetti, which, again, it's a pretty cool visual, but it tells you the depths at which security is taken seriously within that financial industry and within financial institutions. Then I was very lucky to be given the opportunity to run infrastructure, architecture, and engineering for now Broadcom. At the time, it was CA Technologies. For their software as a service business. And this was a really kind of interesting evolution. CA, what was a very traditional software vendor, here's your USB stick, here's your DVD, here's your services to, help you go install your software on-prem and manage it in your data center. And we were really a very small, so I think CA was roughly 10,000 employees, and we were a 250 person division building out what we thought software as a service ought to be. And in my time there before the Broadcom acquisition, we went from 3 solid product offerings in the market to 15 and grew CA's revenue in that space 300%. So, I mean, that was a pretty good gig for 4 years. And then as I transitioned away post Broadcom acquisition, I was super lucky, very grateful to a good friend, Al Lawless, who helped me find a spot at NetApp in the public cloud services division. While I will wave the flag, it's not me taking credit, it's actually shining credit on the team. My team is the only team in NetApp public cloud services that introduced 2 new services within a calendar year. So we introduced a Kubernetes management framework called Astra, and we introduced a fully software-based storage as a service technology in partnership with Google Cloud Platform. So I'm now at Digital.ai. I'm responsible for cloud at Digital.ai, and where we're focused right now as we look at 2023 is we're talking about integration and innovation. So Digital.ai is a merger and acquisition of 5 smaller software development companies that sell software development tools to Global 5,000, Fortune 500, Fortune 100, large enterprise software companies. And when my boss approached me, he said the cloud part of the business is the last part of the business that hasn't been integrated. And so to me, opportunity of a lifetime. How is it you take 5 teams doing 5 different things, bring them all together and look for those efficiencies and look for those opportunities where you bring people together and you get better together. So I said I'd be short about it. That was really way too long. Maurice, you've been very polite, but that is the abbreviated story.
Well, but it's an incredible story, because I can relate to all those organizations that you talked about, and I can see, where it's all kind of like still same technology, same growth, a lot of innovation there. So it's a great story. It really is. Compliments.
Thank you.
Yep. And that brings me to think about that, because when we were speaking about that, and when I think about back in my developer days, you did the build, the test, the verify, go back out there and say, oh, it's not working, start over again to this point. So where does it go wrong? And then once you got it working, you have to do the maintenance with it. But that process took months and years to go back and do that. And I'm thinking about when you said the 5 organizations, how do you do that? Then that would be a great time to talk about what Digital.ai is doing, what you guys are doing there, where a lot of companies actually may have that kind of problem, and where you guys have actually streamlined and said, not only are we doing this using AI, but we're making sure you're compliant, we're making sure that we have security, and we all know how big security is. You're making sure that all that's actually integrated into the process, so it can save companies a lot of time, it can save them a lot of money, and they can get to market faster, make them a lot more competitive. So Geoff, can you expound a little bit about, and tell us about this, how you guys are doing that?
Sure. Well, and so, I think one of the key differentiators about Digital.ai is we believe in the open ecosystem. And I'm not just talking open source. There are competitors in our marketplace that offer similar solutions, but their real expectation of you as a customer is we sell 5 solutions, and in order for you to get the maximum value as a customer, you have to buy all 5. We integrate and we operate within a closed ecosystem. With Digital.ai, we bring our differentiated tools to the market, but we also understand that not every company is going to want to displace everything that they have. And so we have the opportunity to earn business. If you are an Agility customer, Agility is our software planning tool. You can probably think of a very large, I've used this in a prior podcast. Our largest competitor rhymes with the Italian lira, but we do planning software. We do it a little bit differently, but we can plug in our planning software into our analytic lenses and our intelligence dashboards. So you can get the benefit of, as you grow your data over time, how do you augment with our intelligence service what you're learning about your business, and does it give you a different view as a software developer versus a scrum master versus maybe a CTO or an engineering VP. If you're the developer and you're working in your sprint, you kind of want to know what the ticket flow, where your epic stories, tasks, and everything are. If you're looking at it as a VP of marketing, maybe you want to understand a burn down chart and say, oh, well, you know what? We've got another big release in 2 months and we're 75% of the way there. You may not want, that level of detail. We offer a variety of software applications, both on premises and in the cloud. So our full portfolio is not cloud enabled. Our release and deploy solutions are on-prem only today. That's not to say you can't deploy them in a cloud. It just says that we don't offer them as a service today. That will change in 2023. But we do a lot of interesting things that solve problems for our customers. So our continuous testing solution, we offer mobile device farms. So if you think about a mobile everything world, everybody's got their app, right? Even if it's just a simple, hey, we put a skin around a HTML page, whatever, everybody's got their app. Well, if you're a developer, do you want to manage, 10 different cell phones of 10 different types with 10 different versions of iOS or Android or whatever on it? You were talking about earlier about efficiencies. Well, those are the kind of efficiencies that we can offer to our customers. Hey, we will supply you a device farm, a test harness. You can run your tests, and you can know that before you, publish to the Apple Store or Android Marketplace, hey, I've done my testing. I've done my QA. I've done my automated round of testing. I've checked for security, various different things. And you had mentioned security earlier. We offer an application security portfolio that I'll say, maybe my marketing folks or some of the engineer is really second to none. And what I mean by that is we offer software developers the ability to secure their code in a way that is not necessarily uncrackable, but some of our key customers are in the online game market. And most of what you'll find in the online game market is they make their money very early in the release cycle. So I won't speak for our customers, whether it's 30 days, whether it's 90 days, but they want the ability for that software not to be cracked, not to be pirated, so that folks will buy it, and that's where their revenue comes from. We have one of our customers that said, hey, it's really important for us to protect this property for a particular period of time. And again, I'm being a little bit deliberately vague, but let's, for sake of conversation, let's say it was 90 days. Our software encryption for that piece of software kept that software uncracked for almost a year. So, wow. So again, we do a lot of various different things across the software development lifecycle and that innovation pipeline that really allow developers to focus on development, for Scrum Masters to focus on what's going on with planning. We integrate with a lot of different CI/CD pipeline type tools. So again, you don't have to rip and replace everything that you're using. You could start with planning if you don't have a planning tool. If you have a planning tool and you want to do some testing like I described, we have a testing solution that we can offer. So, we really do try and look at how we are both extending our capabilities as well as recognizing where there are market leaders where we can partner.
Wow, that's incredible. What you just mentioned there, up to a year. That's for all of us that are actually CIOs, CTOs, CSOs, and even CEOs. When you hear that, that's music to your ears. So, and one thing I know that the government, they're making a lot of changes that if you're going to work with like the Veterans Administration, DoD, some of these different departments, that you have to make sure that you have some kind of system security plan in place, and you have to make sure that you meet those NIST. I think it's 800-53, or it might be 800- or might be both. Might be several of them, but I know they have a different bunch of NIST type standards. Or like, if you're a subcontractor to somebody like Lockheed, Northrop Grumman, some of the bigger players, they're not going to allow you to actually do business with them anymore. And that kicks in 2023. And I read that you guys have a software where, for example, the standards with FedRAMP, that you actually have that makes sure that they meet that compliance, and that they're going to meet those standards. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, I'll get around to FedRAMP, but I'll talk about, so one of the interesting things, and Maurice, you may have found it in your career, most companies don't necessarily wake up and say, I want to be ISO 27001, or I want to be SOC 2 Type 2. A lot of it is business driven, to your point, about what customers want, what customers expect, and sort of the Missouri show me state. It's nice for you to say that you're doing something, but let's have third party audit, independent proof, and so our entire portfolio is in various different states of maturity, whether it's ISO 27001, SOC 2 Type 2, and again, I mentioned our agility planning software. Our agility planning software is FedRAMP certified and is offered in GovCloud. We received our authority to operate earlier in 2022. Again, I got to give credit where credit is due. I joined Digital.ai in February, and I believe we received our authority to operate in the March timeframe. So, I can wave the banner, but there was about 2 years worth of work way ahead of me that brought that over the finish line. And so, yes, we now have an agile planning software that is FedRAMP certified. We're in the middle of our annual recertification, so that will come to a close probably in January, and we're going to continue down the path. And we're also looking for other partners in the government space across our portfolio, where we may introduce some of the rest of our portfolio into a FedRAMP type model in the future.
Wow, this is pretty remarkable. And how does it work with the developers that you guys that I'm sure your developers probably in-house, they're probably there. When it comes to, for example, making sure that you adhere to like security and making sure that they're like different industry, for example, let's say if it's a healthcare or let's say if it's retail, do you guys have different modules that you apply that for the different sectors to make sure that they meet the compliances, to make sure that they actually that they're secure in those particular areas when it comes to the software deployment?
Right now, where we are doing, and I won't speak for my peer in engineering, but it's really a single development stream. So
Mm-hmm.
we don't have like an Agility FedRAMP edition, an Agility Commercial edition, and an Agility on-prem edition. We really have developers that are working on that Agility product, and they have to take into account how they are developing for that ultimate outcome. So, in the case of agility, we do need to make sure that we're following those best practices and requirements for FedRAMP. And so, the reality is, while it is not in a FedRAMP ecosystem, you're getting the same service in our commercial cloud offering as you are in FedRAMP. Obviously, there are different rules with FedRAMP and boundary, and what data can come in and go out, and the underpinnings that make the FedRAMP offer substantially different. But the actual software. So when you think about the intellectual property or I go to my web page and I see all like the software itself is the same in the commercial and FedRAMP space. What's different is really the ecosystem around it. It is, the requirements for FedRAMP are much more hardened than what would be in a typical commercial offering.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay. And we mentioned about the intelligence with the analytics piece of it earlier. Are you guys incorporating anything with like machine learning? So that into the application so the clients can say, hey, look, we have the data here, but we want the machine learning. It could be how can I say someone can actually go back and into it and actually say, let me help the AI and say, what if this happens? What if this happens? But once it actually picks it up and they have those different scenarios, are you guys doing anything like with machine learning at all?
Well, so I hate to say with Digital.ai, it's in the name, but our intelligence product is where that future, that machine learning, where those analytics really come into play. And again, I would love to tell you I'm an expert, but one of the things that I will share with you, our intelligence platform includes a feature called change risk prediction.
Mm-hmm.
So as you feed in your data and as you feed this model around change risk, it will use that machine learning and the history of your data to give you a prediction of, is this a high risk change? Is it a low risk change? And various different dimensions based on that change risk model. So we are very much looking for how we take customer data and present it to them in a way that is consumable. It's a little bit cliche, but it's the difference between data and information, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you can have that data lake, that data warehouse, whatever, with every last bit of data that you've ever collected over the last 5 years, 15 years, however old your company may be. But if you're not looking at it through the right lens, if you're not asking the right question, the data has little to no value. In the case of security and compliance, may actually have negative value. And so some of what we do with our portfolio is transform that customer data to add business value for the customer, to help them make decisions, to help them see those trends, or again, you can see a positive trend and be excited about it, or maybe you can anticipate a negative trend and say, okay, well, what are we going to do to reverse that negative trend, and what action steps do we need to take now that we have a different view of the data than maybe we had yesterday?
Okay, so you have those dashboards that actually help the end users. They can see that information. Oh wow, we see a trend here. Let's jump on it. Let's research it so we may jump on it.
What one of the interesting things, this may be, call it an early in market condition, but our intelligence product is very sophisticated, and so while it is easily user consumable, I would say we have built a team of experts in our services division. So generally, when our customers buy intelligence, it comes with a bucket of professional services hours. So again, you might say, these are the 14 things I want to see. Then, and the data gets ingested, and our services team will build a dashboard for you based on what your criteria are. And then you can provide the feedback of, oh, yeah, this is exactly the dashboard I wanted. Perfect. Or you can be like, yeah, you know what? I thought that's what I wanted, but maybe now that I see something, I want something. So we offer customization to each customer's business. I mean, there are, again, sort of the roll your own standard, here's what you get out of the box, but a lot of the value is based in working with our customers to realize the value based on the uniqueness of their data or the uniqueness of their business and how they want to see that data.
Okay. And I think the last couple sentences that you said there, so probably should have asked that question early on into the process, but it seems like what happens, the client would come to you and say, hey, look, I want the agile part, but it sounds like they can buy different modules that actually works with their business. So it's really scalable as your business needs grow or business need changes. It sounds like you can actually go back and say, oh yeah, we need this with analytics, we need this with professionals, so forth and so on.
Well, and that really is the value proposition of Digital.ai. I said we were a product of 5 companies in merger and acquisition. We're getting close to the 3-year mark on that M&A initiation. And as you know, change does not happen overnight. So you start with where you are, and you start to figure out where there are product overlaps or intersections or different ways where we can integrate. Our last release this fall, we introduced Digital.ai identities, which is our first step in providing that common platform of you subscribe to the Digital.ai identity, and now whether you use our agility product or you 6 months from now decide to buy our continuous testing product or you decide to buy our intelligence product, you now have the ability to have that one user ID, that common login, that common experience across the portfolio, as opposed to, which button am I clicking on my password vault today to get to this tool, or what URL am I using? So, it will certainly take some time, but the long-term vision is, again, we want to provide the ecosystem where the various different stakeholders can get the information they need across that portfolio of services we provide them.
Okay, and that's a perfect segue to one of my last questions. There would be, when we look at the industry, we look at it, how much is changing. Geoff, what do you think that the industry will be? And I'm not going to go 5 years because things change so fast in our industry. I mean, if I'm pushing it when I say 1 to 3 years, how do you see that everything is going to evolve in the next few years in regard to, especially with what you all do at Digital.ai?
All right, you may need to edit this out, but I'll just say, pardon the bad pun, the crystal ball is cloudy, right? So VP of cloud, crystal ball cloudy. You can you can do the spit take in your coffee mug, but the reality is, we traded a few emails but before this, and I really wanted to be thoughtful. I actually think there's a simple answer of disruptive technology, and that continues to be the spotlight on automation. But I think the spotlight on automation actually misses a key piece of what the real disruption is. And sorry, I may go a little meta here, but the real disruption is education. My father grew up big car guy in the car industry, and everything historically in that era of cars was, how do you tune your carburetor? What do? You can get under the hood and everything's mechanical. And if you were mechanically inclined, you could work on your own car. And then we hit the era of cars with computers on board, and everybody can hook in their iPhone now and do the OBD2 scanner and see the check engine code. But seeing that check engine code doesn't make you a mechanic. It doesn't make you any more prepared to actually work on that car. And we can talk about electric vehicles and what that means or doesn't mean for folks that want to maintain or manage their own cars. But to pull it back to automation, in order to automate something, you really have to understand what it's doing. Like it's not just throw darts at a dartboard and hope that everything magically happens in a sequence and you get the output that you want. We really have to think about how we educate. Like I read something, the buzz over the past month has been the chat GPT-3 and what AI and ML are doing and how you ask questions and the cool websites where you can give it a prompt and it creates really cool artwork for you. But there was a thought leader that posed the idea that in less than 5 years, all of Wikipedia would be AI ML curated to the point where there aren't human authors on Wikipedia anymore. And look, I'm a technology guy. I'm interested in advancements, but I really struggle with the idea of, okay, Wikipedia is not written by humans anymore. You've got these AI bots that are crawling the web, and the minute that famous movie star passes away, the Wikipedia article is updated in 2 minutes or less, or some new technology thing comes out, now you've got a new Wikipedia page. There are some advantages there, but there are some real disadvantages in how we choose to educate folks. And maybe the other analogy I would make, and this is again maybe a little bit of a shame on me. Growing up, I was not very interested in history. Like I found history to be very dry. Gee, what year did the War of 1812 happen? How do we memorize order of presidents or various different things? But then you see a Broadway show like Hamilton come along.
Mm-hmm.
Holy cow! Wait a minute. Like what are we doing wrong here?
Right.
Like we have this phrase: those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. But we're not teaching our kids or teaching our teammates or the stories. I love the way you started the podcast. Hey, Geoff, tell me a little bit. Like what's your story? And if we don't enable folks to be curious, to be problem solvers, and have an education that supports that, we miss the boat on the technology. The technology, where humanity meets technology, where technology meets humanity, where's the benefit? And the benefit really ought to be, how are we making that next generation better? What are we doing to invest in humanity so that automation is worthwhile? If you, I'll bring it back to business. If I'm a software developer and I automate my test suite, and that gives me 18 hours back a month, is that 18 hours back a month that I'm actually coding? Is it some time now that I can go for a walk and enjoy nature or have a cup of coffee? Like where is my balance in that automation benefit? And if I'm that developer and all those tests are automated and I've got my 18 hours back, if that automation breaks, do I know how to fix it? Is it going to take me more than 18 hours to fix it? Is it going to take, like, is now everything all off track because it's going to take me 4 weeks to figure out what the heck went wrong with this automation? And now instead of 18 hours, I've got multiple hours of, well, how do I put all the pieces, how do I build Humpty Dumpty back together again? So I think there is a massive, massive amount of power in automation. But I think it's too blasé or too easy a buzzword, because the folks that are really doing the automation are your deep experts. So there's a responsibility in that deep expert, not just to hand somebody the tool and say, here you go. Here's all the stuff underneath it. Here, I handed you the 1,000-piece puzzle already assembled, but I didn't show you all the effort that it took to put all those 1,000 pieces together.
I mean, that's a very interesting concept that you brought that up because, and I love how you said education. I did not expect to hear the answer education, but you're right. But you think about that, what if it gets too complex that it takes it over that people can't go back and fix it, or it takes them much longer to try to figure out what happened. And then what if something like the integrity or the morality part of that is actually changed? And then it actually changes. So I'm rewriting history, like you mentioned the example of Wikipedia. You know what? I like this version better, so it's going to be this from now on. And it actually, but I mean, that's a really good. That's a very very strong point that you bring that up because it can go either direction, and it only takes one group or one person to actually go back and say, I like it better this way. You know, interesting concept. It is.
I sorry, it was a little bit of a all over the map brain dump, but again, I think to your point about technology, the world is changing so fast. We've got to do a better job of taking care of the generations to come, so that again, maybe another cliche. Every generation leaves a mess for the up and coming generation behind it to clean up. I think we can do better. I think we can enable and empower me. You got to memorize your math tables. You got to, you have to have some basic skills. But if we are going to live in a world that is augmented by artificial intelligence or machine learning, again, I carry the universes of knowledge in my pocket in my cell phone. If I want to know more about the War of 1812, I can Google it. I can read about it, and I can become a closet expert in 5 minutes or less to go argue with somebody else on the internet that has an opinion about why the War of 1812 was or wasn't important. But how do you get those people to be curious? How do you get if somebody gives you an answer, is the answer where it stops? Or is there a why behind it? Or is there how am I going to learn more about this thing? Bringing up that next generation of curious problem solvers feeds into the how does it get better? How do we use automation? How do we take things? I think I was kidding about Cisco and retiring on my own private island. Mm-hmm. Maybe we should all aspire to be retired on our own private island. But anyway, I digress. There's a lot of interesting things going on in technology and disruption, but if we don't educate ourselves and those around us about it, we're missing a real opportunity.
Right, and I agree with you. And I don't think you were digressing at all because it still falls into play with what we're talking about here. It's just another way of looking at it because we have to look at it from different angles. And like you said, you have to have that curiosity. You have to have critical thinking skill sets, and you've got to think about that in that particular manner. So, but thank you for that. So when I have a panel one day, when I bring a bunch of guys on, we're going to just have a conversation about AI, machine learning, and the future. I want to bring you to that panel, Geoff.
I would love to be there. It would be my honor. It sounds like it'd be a lot of fun.
Thank you. I have a couple of people in mind. So one day next year, we're going to do that. I'll give you a call. Okay.
Awesome.
Great. Well, this has been an excellent conversation, Geoff. I really appreciate it. This is very enlightening. I love what Digital.ai, what you guys are doing there. And again, talking for myself, I've been in those people who are actually developers and software engineers and been there like I have been. You can see the benefit, you can see the value, and you can see the productivity and the efficiencies that you guys are doing. And it's phenomenal. So keep up the great work.
Maurice, again, thank you for the invitation. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I look forward to doing it again in the future.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for listening to our podcast. If you like it, if you enjoyed it, like it. And we definitely want to welcome all your comments there. And we like to have these type of interesting conversations. And so thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others. Post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from your host, connect with Maurice on LinkedIn @Maurice Hamilton. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.